It was almost midnight when Emily stood awkwardly in the doorway of Daniel's apartment, clutching her small overnight bag. The rain outside had been relentless, forcing her to accept his offer to stay for the night. She wasn't used to leaning on anyone, and asking for help made her feel vulnerable. Emily had just moved to Toronto for a new job, far from her family in Vancouver, and life lately had felt overwhelming. Her apartment lease had fallen through at the last minute, and the few friends she had here were busy. Daniel was a coworker, kind but quiet, and he had offered his place without hesitation when he realized she had nowhere else to go. When she walked inside, she tried to smile, hiding the exhaustion in her eyes. Daniel showed her the living room, pointing at the couch. "You can take this," he said softly, "I'll grab you some blankets." Emily nodded quickly. The couch looked fine, and she didn't want to inconvenience him. But when Daniel returned, carrying a thick blanket and pillow, he noticed the way she sank into the couch cushions with forced acceptance, her back curved and shoulders tight, as though she was shrinking herself to take up less space. He hesitated, then finally said, "Emily, the bed is big enough for two." The words made her freeze. She looked up at him, surprised, uncertain. His voice wasn't teasing, and his eyes weren't demanding. It was just an honest, caring suggestion. Still, her guard was strong. "No, no, the couch is fine," she whispered, avoiding his gaze. She had learned long ago to depend only on herself. After her parents' divorce and years of unstable relationships around her, Emily believed that keeping distance meant keeping safe. Daniel didn't press her. Instead, he just nodded and went into his room, leaving the door cracked open. But as the hours passed, Emily lay awake on the couch, staring at the ceiling. The city noises outside mixed with the storm, and her mind raced. She thought about how lost she felt lately, how hard it was to build a life from nothing, and how rare it was to find someone genuinely kind. Her chest ached with the weight of it all. Finally, shivering from the cold draft of the window, she got up and tiptoed to Daniel's door. He was awake, reading a book under the soft lamplight. When he noticed her, he sat up slightly. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked gently. She hesitated, then nodded. "Are you sure it's okay?" she asked quietly, her voice almost breaking. Daniel moved over without hesitation, patting the empty side of the bed. "Of course." Emily climbed in carefully, still stiff with nerves, but when she felt the warmth of the blanket and the quiet steadiness of Daniel beside her, a strange comfort settled in. Neither of them spoke much after that. He simply said, "You don't have to do everything alone, Emily," before turning off the light. For the first time in weeks, Emily slept peacefully. The next morning, the sunlight poured into the room, and she woke to the sound of Daniel making coffee in the kitchen. She sat up slowly, realizing she hadn't had a single nightmare, hadn't tossed or turned the way she usually did. Something about being near someone who meant no harm, someone who offered space without judgment, had allowed her heart to rest. When she walked into the kitchen, Daniel smiled faintly and handed her a mug. She accepted it with both hands, staring at him for a moment. He wasn't flashy, wasn't trying to impress her. He had simply been there when she needed someone. Tears stung her eyes, though she tried to blink them away. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice full of emotion. "I don't think you realize what that meant." Daniel shrugged lightly, though his own expression softened. "Sometimes we all just need to know we're not alone." Emily nodded, and for the first time in a long while, she believed it. She wasn't weak for accepting kindness. She wasn't a burden. She was human, and so was he, and maybe, just maybe, the world wasn't as cold as she had convinced herself it was. That night on the couch had been more than a place to sleep. It was a reminder that in a city full of strangers, someone had looked at her and said, without words or expectations, "You belong here too." And sometimes, that was enough to change everything.